The map ends. The chamber was silent. Only the soft hum of the great galactic atlas could be heard. The atlas was a living map, a crystal sphere filled with shifting lights. Each point of light was a star, each cluster a system, the work of thousands of alien cartographers across centuries. It was said no corner of the galaxy remained unmarked, no world left unnamed. Yet there was a place where the light ended. The atlas stretched far and wide, glowing with colors, but on the far rim it simply stopped. There was a gap, a border of darkness, no stars drawn, no systems written, a void where the maps refused to speak. Alien scholars often stood before this void, whispering to each other. Some believed the map makers grew tired and never finished their work. Others said it was a natural barrier, a region of space cursed or broken. But the older ones, the ones who remembered ancient stories, shook their heads and said one word softly: humans. Rumors carried through marketplaces and taverns, tales told by wandering traders, stories of ships that vanished when they crossed into the blank zone. Captains spoke of sudden shadows, of strange signals, of voices warning them to turn back. Most laughed at such tales, yet none could explain why the most advanced atlas in the galaxy ended so suddenly. Inside the council chamber, a young scribe studied the maps. His hand shook as he pointed at the blank edge. "Why does it stop here?" he asked his elder. "The galaxy is vast. We have mapped 10 million systems. So why do we not mark this part?" The elder lowered his voice, his scales glinting under the light. "Because those who dared to mark it never returned," the scribe frowned. "You mean they were lost in exploration?" The elder shook his head slowly. "No, they were erased, not by nature, but by someone who did not wish to be mapped." His voice carried the weight of fear. "The humans live there." The word echoed in the chamber like thunder. Humans. Some of the younger aliens only knew them from whispers. From forbidden scrolls locked in archives, the stories painted them as unpredictable, dangerous, and unstoppable. They were said to be too adaptable, too fast to change, too willing to fight. Many races had wars with them long ago, and many regretted it. But why erase them from the maps, the elder explained. The cartographers refused to mark their stars, not because humans demanded it, but because the galaxy itself grew afraid. Every attempt to chart their territory ended in blood, so the lines were left empty to protect us. To remind us, the young scribe stared at the void with wide eyes. He felt both fear and wonder. It was as if the blank space pulled him closer, as if secrets were calling from the other side. Then came the story of a traitor, one who claimed to have crossed the line. His ship limped back into port with burns across the hull. His eyes haunted. He told of machines watching from the dark, silent satellites that followed his every move. His crew vanished one by one, only he returned, whispering the same phrase again and again. "They are watching us." The council dismissed him as a madman, yet no one dared to cross again. Still, questions spread across the galaxy. Young explorers grew restless. Why should humans be feared? What secret lay beyond that invisible wall, in hidden corners of the universe? Brave captains began to dream of crossing. Curiosity burned stronger than caution. What if the stories are lies, they said. What if riches lie in human space? But the old ones warned. Maps end where humans begin, and there is a reason. On one cold night, the scribe returned alone to the Atlas chamber. He placed his hand against the glass where the light ended. He whispered softly, "Why do you hide? Humans." And as if the galaxy itself answered, the lights inside the Atlas flickered. For a single moment he thought he saw new stars bloom in the void. But then they vanished, leaving only blackness. His heart raced. He felt the weight of unseen eyes watching him through the map. He stumbled back, realizing the truth. The Atlas did not refuse to map because of weakness. It refused because something far stronger had chosen silence. The scribe fled the chamber that night, but he carried the memory with him. A memory of blank stars that held more fear than any battlefield. A memory that whispered the same warning across generations. The maps end, and where they end, humanity begins. The warnings, the council chamber filled with voices. Alien leaders from many worlds gathered around the glowing Atlas, their eyes fixed on the dark boundary where the stars ended. The silence of that void carried more weight than any war fleet. "We cannot allow mystery to exist on our maps," one counselor argued, his long fingers tapping the table. "Every corner of the galaxy must be charted. Knowledge is safety. Ignorance is danger." Another shook her head, her wings folding tight against her body. "You call it ignorance, I call it survival." The blank space is a warning, written not with ink but with silence. The humans live there, and the galaxy has chosen to forget them. The young scribe who had seen the flickering stars stood in the back, his mind replaying the strange vision. He wanted to speak, but fear closed his throat. Still, he listened as the council argued. Stories began to rise again, spoken in hushed tones. Some said humans once challenged the predator empires, the same predators that had enslaved whole sectors, yet when they met humans, their empires crumbled in decades, not centuries. Others claimed humans fought wars with weapons that burned stars, but never showed the weapons again. They do not fight like us, an elder counselor whispered. We fight to survive, but humans fight to end. When they rise in war, they leave nothing unfinished, and when peace comes, they vanish into silence. The chamber grew quiet, each leader remembering ancient tales passed down. None could prove them true, yet none dared to laugh them away. Outside the chamber, rumors spread among citizens. Market stalls echoed with frightened voices. Traders swore that ships crossing near human space felt shadows in their scanners. Children whispered that the stars themselves hid in fear. The galaxy had always drawn lines, borders between empires, zones of influence, but this was different. This was not a line drawn by law. It was a line drawn by fear. Still, curiosity burned. A faction of younger counselors demanded action. We must send scouts. We must see for ourselves. These are only stories. Fear is the prison of progress. The older ones refused. Do not mistake silence for weakness. The blank zone is not empty. It is full of a presence you cannot measure, a presence that chooses when to be seen. The scribe finally found his voice. I saw something in the atlas, he said softly. The chamber turned to him. The void flickered. I saw stars appear for a moment, as if they wanted to remind us they are still there. His voice trembled, and I felt them watching me. The leaders stared in silence. Some dismissed his words as the imagination of youth. Others felt their hearts grow heavier. To break the tension, a historian rose. Carrying ancient scrolls, he read aloud. In the age of iron skies, fleets crossed into human space. Not one returned. Maps were drawn, but the cartographers who marked their stars soon vanished. Only blank parchment remained where ink had been. It is as if the galaxy itself erased them. A shiver spread through the chamber, but ambition is stubborn. A powerful merchant lord leaned forward, his jeweled robes gleaming.
Fear keeps us weak. We must know what lies beyond.
If humans are so strong, why do they hide? Perhaps they are gone. Perhaps only ghosts remain. The room divided. Fear against greed. Caution against curiosity. In the end, the council voted, not with unity, but with desperation. A small fleet of scouts would be sent. They would cross the line where the atlas ended. They would bring back truth, or nothing at all before the meeting ended. The oldest counselor stood, his eyes clouded with age yet sharp with memory. Hear me, he said, his voice like thunder. I was a child when my world burned. The ones who saved us were not kind. They were not merciful. They were human. They ended the predators in fire, and when the smoke cleared, they did not stay to rule. They simply vanished, leaving only silence. Never forget. Humans are not like us. They are the storm that comes when the galaxy grows too proud. His warning hung heavy in the air. As the chamber emptied, the scribe walked alone, his heart torn between fear and wonder. He looked back at the atlas one last time. At the void that swallowed stars, he whispered to himself, what if we awaken something better left asleep in the distance? The fleet prepared to depart, their engines glowing against the cold dark. None knew what they would find beyond the line. None knew if they would return. But the galaxy held its breath, because everyone understood one truth. Whether spoken or buried in silence, maps end where humans begin, and the warnings are never given without reason. The first crossing, the fleet was small. Only 5 scout ships chosen for speed rather than strength. Their hulls shimmered with stealth plating, their engines tuned to whisper across the void. No banners marked them, for even pride seemed heavy when facing the unknown. From the spaceport, crowds gathered to watch. Citizens leaned over railings, traders pressed against glass. Children clutched their parents' hands. The sight of ships flying toward the blank zone filled them with both awe and dread. Whispers echoed through the crowd. They go where the maps refuse. They go where the humans wait aboard the lead ship. Captain Draylen stood silent, his scales reflecting the glow of the stars. He had volunteered not out of courage, but out of a restless need to know. His voice carried through the comms. We cross not to conquer, not to claim, but to see. Yet even as he spoke, his hands trembled. The fleet moved closer to the dark edge. The stars ahead grew strange. Scanners picked up distortions as if the very light bent away. Navigation systems glitched, maps spun uselessly. The crew stared at their screens, unable to find a single beacon. It was as if the universe itself refused to guide them. No chart accepts these coordinates, the navigator whispered. It is like we are writing into emptiness. Then came the first sign. A signal, faint and cold, not a greeting, not a warning, just a single tone that echoed through every ship, low and steady, like the beating of some ancient heart. The crew froze, eyes wide. Is it mechanical? Someone asked. Is it natural? Another muttered. But the captain said nothing, for he felt the truth deep inside. It was not a signal sent by accident. It was a gaze moments later. The second ship vanished. No explosion, no distress call. One moment it was there, the next moment it was gone. Only static filled its channel. The other ships swerved, panic in their voices. Where did they go? Did they jump? Did something take them? Scanners showed nothing. The space around them looked empty. Yet the crews felt pressure, like unseen eyes pressing against their hulls. Captain Draylen steadied his voice. Hold course, we came for truth. Not fear, but his words were thin. They flew deeper, the darkness swallowing them. Then they saw it, a satellite, small and silent, hanging alone in the void. Its surface black as shadow, but its eye glowed faint blue. It turned as they approached, always facing them. The navigator whispered, It is watching. More satellites appeared. Dozens, then hundreds, forming a net around them. None fired, none moved aggressively. They only watched, cold and patient. The crew felt sweat gather on their foreheads. One officer muttered, We are not the hunters here. We are prey walking into a trap. The fleet slowed. Engines dimming, the captain ordered a scan. But every attempt failed. The satellites blocked their signals, scrambled their systems. It was as if the machines allowed them to move forward, but not to understand. Suddenly the comms crackled. A voice broke through. Not alien, but harsh, sharp, undeniably human. You should not be here. The words echoed across every ship. Spoken in a language none of them should understand. Yet somehow every alien heard the meaning clearly. Panic erupted. Officers begged to turn back. Some cried out in fear. But Captain Draylen forced his voice to steady. We come in peace, we seek knowledge. Silence followed. Long and heavy, then the voice returned. Softer, colder. Knowledge has a price. Are you willing to pay it? Before they could answer, the third ship flickered. Its lights dimmed, its hull shuddered, and then it too vanished. No wreckage, no cry, only absence. The crew screamed. They are taking us one by one. Captain Draylen gripped the console, his chest burning with terror. Yet he would not turn back. His eyes fixed on the void ahead. He whispered to himself, if this is the end, let me at least see what lies beyond. And then, like a curtain pulling back, the darkness shifted. Stars appeared, bright and countless, but not like the stars they knew. These stars burned with strange hues, deep blues, crimson reds, golden lights that pulsed like living hearts. Entire systems unfolded before them, vibrant and alive. The crews gasped, not with fear but with wonder. It is beautiful. One whispered. This is what they hide, yet even in the beauty, the satellites followed, circling them, reminding them they were only guests, unwanted and watched. The human voice spoke once more, this time almost like a whisper in their minds. You are not ready to see us. Leave before you cannot leave at all. The captain felt his courage break. His voice cracked as he gave the order. Turn back. The fleet turned slowly, the stars fading behind them as the darkness swallowed everything again. They fled across the line, hearts pounding, breaths shallow. Only 3 of the 5 ships remained. When they returned to their space, the crowds gasped. Some cried. The sight of missing ships told more truth than any report, and though the council demanded answers, the captain spoke only one phrase. They are watching us, humanity revealed. The council chamber was filled again, heavier this time, the air thick with fear and whispers. 3 ships had returned. 2 were gone. The silence of their absence weighed more than words. Captain Draylen stood in the center, his uniform torn, his eyes hollow. He spoke with a voice that shook the hall. We crossed the line, we saw the void open. We saw their machines, they did not fire, they did not chase, they only watched. And they took 2 of our ships without sound, without reason, without trace. A shiver ran through the gathered council. Leaders of countless worlds exchanged nervous glances. One whispered, only humans could make presence a weapon. But the captain's last words struck harder. They spoke to us, they knew our languages. They said we should not be there, they warned us, and then they let us go. A silence followed until one of the oldest counselors rose, his robes ancient and frayed, his eyes sharp despite age. He slammed his staff on the floor. Enough silence, he declared. We hide from truth too long. Today we open the archives. The chamber stirred. Whispers of fear and protest filled the air. The archives were forbidden. sealed by agreement centuries ago, records too dangerous for common knowledge. But the Elder would not be stopped. Guardians brought forth iron cases, old and cracked, sealed with chains. The Elder broke them open. Scrolls and tablets spilled out. Holograms flickered to life. The chamber dimmed as history returned. They saw worlds burning under predator empires, chains binding entire species, cries of despair filling the stars, and then suddenly, humans appeared, small in number, fragile in flesh, yet carrying fire greater than giants. Fleets of predators clashed with human warships. Battles that should have lasted centuries ended in months. Humans adapted faster than thought possible. When enemies changed weapons, humans built stronger ones in weeks. When fleets ambushed them, humans turned the traps into victories. But the worst was not their strength, it was their resolve. Records showed human fleets not stopping until their enemies were broken. Predators who enslaved entire sectors were gone in less than a generation. Empires feared across the galaxy vanished like shadows. And then, as the counselors watched in awe and fear, they saw the strangest part. The humans did not claim the conquered worlds. They did not build empires on the ruins. Instead, they left, their ships turning away, their armies vanishing into silence, no tribute demanded, no banners raised, only emptiness where war had raged. Why would they leave? A counselor whispered. No race in history walks away from victory, the Elder's voice echoed. Because humans never fought for rule. They fought for survival. And once survival was secure, they vanished. The images shifted again, showing maps from that era. Human space clearly marked, systems named, stars charted. Yet as the records moved forward, the marks faded, first erased in treaties, then removed by fear until the maps ended in blank silence. We erased them, the Elder admitted, his voice heavy. Not they, us, the galaxy itself chose to forget them. Because memory of their wars was too heavy, too terrifying. So we left their space blank, a warning to all who dreamed too much. The chamber trembled with unease. The young scribe from earlier felt his heart pound. He remembered the flickering lights he had seen in the atlas. He realized now it was no error. The humans had never been erased. They had only been hidden. Captain Draylen clenched his fists. If they wished to stay hidden, why did they reveal themselves to us? The Elder answered slowly. Because you crossed, and when you cross, they remind you that they never left. They remind you that they are still watching. The chamber grew colder. Leaders looked to one another, torn between fear and fascination. Should they see humans as threat, or as saviors waiting in silence? The scribe dared to speak, his voice small but steady. Perhaps they are not monsters. Perhaps they are not myths. Perhaps they are only waiting to see what kind of galaxy we become. His words hung in the air like fragile glass. No one dared to break them. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy remembered truth. Humans had not vanished. They had not been defeated. They had simply stepped away, leaving only fear and silence behind. And now, after ages of forgetting, they had spoken again. Maps end where humans begin, and history itself trembled at that border. The envoy, the council chamber, no longer argued. Fear had silenced them. Truth from the archives could not be buried again. Humans had not vanished. They had not been erased. They were still there, waiting beyond the blank stars. But questions gnawed at every leader. Were humans only watchers, or would they rise again? Would they bring peace, or would they bring storms? Finally, the decision came. An envoy must go. Not a fleet, not scouts, but a single voice of peace. One who could carry the council's questions and survive the weight of human eyes. Many refused the task. Diplomats of great skill trembled and looked away. Even merchants who once chased fortune had no desire to cross that border. At last, a quiet ambassador named Arian stepped forward. Arian was not a warrior, not a commander. He was known for listening more than speaking, for finding calm even in storm. When asked why he volunteered, he answered simply, because silence cannot be answered by silence. Someone must try. The chamber watched him bow, his cloak plain, his eyes steady, and for the first time, hope mixed with fear. His ship was small, unarmed, carrying no banners of empire, only a single flag of white. Its engines hummed as it drifted toward the void. The galaxy held its breath. As Arian crossed the line where the atlas ended, the familiar shadows returned, scanners failed, coordinates twisted. The darkness swallowed his ship whole, but he did not flinch. Satellites appeared, hundreds of them, their glowing eyes turning as one to face him. They did not fire. They did not block his way. They simply circled. Then the voice came again, human, sharp, cold, filling his ship. You come knowing the warnings. Why, Arian stood tall in the empty chamber of his vessel, speaking softly. Because we have feared too long. Because we must understand. Because silence cannot be our answer forever. For a moment there was nothing, only the steady hum of the satellites. Then lights flashed ahead, stars shifting, the darkness peeling back. A shape emerged, vast and silent. A human warship, ancient in design yet alive with power. Its hull black as night, its lines sharp as if carved from shadow. It dwarfed his vessel. The voice returned, calmer this time. You speak for the galaxy? Arian nodded, though he knew they could not see. I speak for those who fear you. For those who wonder if you are enemy or savior. I speak for those who believe forgetting cannot last forever. Silence again, heavy and endless. Then his screens flickered. Images appeared, old battles, predator empires falling, humans walking away. The very history the council had unsealed. You know our story, the voice said. Yet still you came. Do you think we are gods, demons, or something else? Arian breathed slowly. I think you are human, nothing more, nothing less. The silence stretched. Then a sound like a soft exhale filled the comms, almost laughter, almost sorrow. You are not wrong, the voice whispered. But you are not ready. Your galaxy still plays with chains and crowns, still hungers for power. We watched you erase us, we let you forget. Because memory is a weapon too heavy for those not ready to carry it. Arian's heart pounded, yet he did not falter. Then why speak to me now? Why not remain hidden forever? The warship's lights pulsed, casting long shadows across his vessel. Because you crossed, because forgetting is no longer enough. Because the galaxy must choose if it wishes to remember us, and live with what that means. Arian bowed his head. I cannot speak for all, but I can listen. I can return with truth, the voice answered. Truth is dangerous. Truth can break empires. Are you willing to carry it? His throat felt dry, yet his voice stayed steady. Yes, the warship did not move. Did not fire. It simply turned, its massive hull sliding back into the darkness. The satellites followed until only the voice remained. Then return and tell them this. Humans do not vanish. Humans do not fade. We are always here, waiting at the edge of maps, watching, deciding. The comms fell silent. The stars shifted back. The void swallowed itself, leaving only emptiness again. Arian sat alone, his hands trembling, but his eyes bright. He whispered to himself. They are not gone, they never were. And they chose to let me live. When his ship returned to council space, the sight of him alive sent waves across the galaxy. Crowds cheered, leaders gasped, but fear still lingered, for he carried a message heavier than war. Maps end where humans begin, and now the galaxy knew that humans themselves had spoken again. The secret of maps, the council chamber was overflowing. Every seat filled, every corridor crowded with eyes and ears. Ambassadors, generals, traders, even priests leaned forward to hear the envoy's words. Arian stood at the center, pale from his journey, his cloak worn from long travel. Yet his presence silenced the hall more than any command could. His voice was calm, though every word seemed to weigh heavy. I crossed the line, I saw them, I spoke with them. The humans are not gone, they never were, they only waited, and they watched us from the shadows of our own maps. A ripple of fear swept through the chamber, but Arian raised his hand. They did not destroy me, they did not strike. They only asked one question. Are we ready to remember them? The council buzzed with whispers, some filled with wonder, others with anger. Generals shouted that humans must be a threat. Merchants whispered of opportunities. Priests muttered of omens. Arian's gaze swept across them. You erased them, not they. The galaxy itself chose silence. Because their history was too heavy, too sharp, too much for fragile rulers to carry. He opened his hands, and the hollow screens lit up. Recordings he had carried back. Human voices, human images, their warship black against the void, their satellites unblinking, their words echoing. They said truth is dangerous, truth can break empires. They asked if we were ready to carry it. The chamber trembled with the weight of that truth. Then the elder counselor rose, his staff shaking but his eyes fierce. I warned you once, I will warn you again. Humans do not vanish. Humans do not weaken. When they fight, they end wars. When they build, they shape futures. But when the galaxy grows greedy, they disappear. Leaving silence behind, the young scribe stood too, his voice unsteady but clear. But why would the galaxy itself erase them? Why would cartographers refuse to mark their stars? What secret lies beyond the maps? Arian's voice grew softer, almost like a whisper. Because the galaxy did not trust itself, it feared temptation. Every empire that sees their territory dreams of conquest. Every predator that hears their name wonders if it can be the one to tame them. So the galaxy erased them, not to protect humans, but to protect itself from its own hunger. The hall fell into deep silence. The truth pierced deeper than any blade. Maps ended. Not because humans demanded it, but because others feared what they might do if reminded. Humans became a myth to keep greed from knocking at their gates. Arian continued, his eyes distant. And yet, they never erased themselves. They watched, they remembered. They chose when to reveal their presence. They let us forget, but they never forgot. The chamber shifted with unease. Leaders whispered, if they still watch. If they still decide, what do they want now? Arian remembered the last words spoken to him in the void. His voice shook as he repeated them. They said, humans do not fade, we are always here. Waiting at the edge of maps, watching, deciding. The elder struck his staff once more. That is their secret. The maps are not empty. The maps are mirrors. They reflect our fear, our pride, our readiness. The humans are the test we can never escape. They wait to see what we choose to become. The young scribe's eyes widened. So the blank stars are not silence, they are judgment. The words rippled through the chamber like a wave. Judgment? The maps were not unfinished, they were warnings, guardians, reminders that some lines must never be crossed lightly. Outside the chamber, news spread like fire. Whole worlds whispered, the humans are still here. Some prayed for their return, others feared their awakening. Traders dreamed of new riches, soldiers sharpened blades, but all knew the galaxy was changed. In the Atlas chamber, the great map flickered. For the first time in centuries, faint stars appeared at the border of the void. They glimmered faintly. Not enough to chart, but enough to remind. The scribe stared at them, heart racing. They are showing themselves again, he whispered, and across the galaxy hearts beat faster, because the secret was no longer buried. Maps end where humans begin, because the galaxy itself chose to hide them, and now the humans had chosen to return. Where humanity begins, the galaxy had changed. Whispers moved faster than fleets. Every world spoke of the envoy who crossed into the void and returned alive. Every tavern, every temple, every market echoed with the same word. Humans on the council floor, silence lingered. The stars on the great atlas flickered faintly at its edge, no longer empty, no longer hidden. The void now shimmered with hints of light. As if daring the galaxy to remember, leaders argued again. Some demanded preparation for war. Others begged for peace, but beneath the noise, fear and hope blended into one truth. Humanity had spoken again. Envoy Arian stood quietly, his eyes weary, his voice steady. They could have destroyed me. They could have erased my ship like they erased the others. But they let me return, not with chains, not with threats, but with words. They are waiting, watching, deciding. The young scribe stepped forward, his heart racing. Then we must ask ourselves, what do they wait for? What do they judge us by? No one answered, for deep inside they all feared the same thing. Beyond the line, in the silence of human space, vast fleets drifted unseen. Ancient warships that once shattered predator empires now slumbered in shadow, their engines quiet but never dead. Their weapons covered in dust yet ready in an instant. Humans walked among them, not as conquerors but as guardians. On one such warship, a commander gazed at the stars, his voice low as he spoke to his crew. They remember us again. Their maps stir, their voices return. We do not rise because we hunger. We rise because the galaxy forgets too easily, and forgetting always breeds arrogance. His crew listened in silence. They understood humanity did not live in the void to hide. They lived there to wait, to protect the galaxy from itself. Back in the council chamber, the elder raised his staff one final time. His voice thundered. The maps do not end because they are empty. The maps end because the galaxy could not bear to draw further. Humanity is the line between memory and madness. They are the reminder that some forces do not bow to crowns or chains. His words shook the hall. The young scribe whispered softly, so the blank stars are not the end of the map. They are the beginning of humanity. And at that moment, something stirred in the great atlas. The faint stars at the border pulsed brighter. One by one, small lights flickered into view, as if unseen hands drew them. Not fully revealed, but no longer erased. Gasps filled the chamber. Every eye fixed on the glowing edge. It was not a full chart, not a claim of conquest, but a promise that humanity was still there. Envoy Arian bowed his head. They are not ghosts, they are not myths. They are builders, dreamers, fighters when forced, and guardians when needed. They are the storm and the silence. They are where our maps refuse to go, Because the galaxy has always known they begin where fear ends. Outside, citizens raised their eyes to the night skies, wondering which stars belonged to the hidden humans. Some prayed for their return. Others trembled at the thought, but none could deny it anymore. The predators of old once laughed at humans, and they were destroyed. The cartographers once erased them, and still their stars shone. Now the galaxy remembered and the future trembled. In the darkness of human space, the warship commander looked once more at the distant galaxy, his eyes calm, his words carried through the silence. Let them draw their maps again, let them remember. For it is not their lines that define us, it is our choice, and when the time comes, they will see who we truly are. The void shimmered, the faint stars burned brighter, and across the galaxy hearts beat with fear and wonder. Maps end where humans begin, and now the galaxy knew the truth. It was not the end of a chart, it was the beginning of a story that had only just awakened where humanity begins. The galaxy will never be the same.